In this session, we will talk about satellite business. So let me introduce the speakers or the panelists of this session. From Keio University, we have Professor Naohiko Kohtake, the Graduate School System Design and Management. From ESA, we have Dr. Eric Morel du Westgaver, the Director of Strategy, Legal and External Affairs, and also the head of the headquarters in Paris. From Sky Perfect JSAT, we have Mr. Daisuke Hirata, the Deputy General Manager of Business Innovation Group, Space Business Unit. Then we have Mr. Shunsuke Onishi from iQPS, who is the Director and CEO of this iQPS. And as a moderator, we have Mr. Mitsuru Obe, the Chief Business News Correspondent of Nikkei Asia. Please get started.
ご紹介ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for that introduction. So once again, Nihonbashi specific and Nikkei is future of space. Thank you very much for attending this conference to everyone. And already we have talked about cooperation between Japan and Europe and also the lunar surface business. And in this session, we would like to take a more perspective that's even closer to business in order to deepen our discussion. So we have 4 leaders from the space industry. And my perspective is, well, can space actually serve in humans' interests? Because space development is very, very costly. And in Japan, we face issues such as aging and also many areas where we have to expend a lot of government finances. So why do we have to spend so much money on space? I think that's a question we all have. So against that backdrop, through this panel discussion, I would like to communicate the sort of values that space can generate and how we can establish space as a business, whether it's sustainable or not. And these are the sorts of topics that I would like to cover today. Now, on the panel, the panelists include Mr. Naohiko Kohtake, professor. Well, I'd like to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and give a brief background of their curriculum vitae and the developments that led to their involvement in space. So Professor Kohtake used to work with JAXA and the ESA, and when the H2 rocket failed, he did analysis of that, and he's also involved in the space examination equipment space examination. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Kohtake. I teach at the university right now, but of course that we do the research and also education, and creating business is also something that we are engaged in. So I come from the graduate school where the many adults study. So they have started some of the companies. And also Hirata-san from Sky Perfect JSAT is also the graduate of this school. So we are going through this collaboration with the government and also the private sector and academia. Now, there was a question whether these space technologies can help us or help society, and the answer is yes. And the companies and other countries and people who can make it possible are benefiting some values. But the key word is commoditization, because those people engaged in the space
the data and technology existed for those people. But now the many people can utilize those technology and data. I am the teacher at the Keio University, but I was also the head of the elementary school of Keio until some years ago. So when we talk about what kind of materials that we can use, and actually the elementary schools kids utilize that material to do the experiments on their own. So we have seen that a lot of changes happening in terms of the commoditization. This is the most important slide that I would like to show. With the IoT, I think that your daily lives have been changing. And as you can see at the top, you see the satellite observation, the Earth observation, and also the satellite positioning. And many people receive those signals. For example, you get these GPS from your smartphone. On the right-hand side, the Sky Perfect JSAT speaker is here with us, which is number 5 in Asia. The QPS is on the left-hand side, that is the observation. So everything like these are connected. So when you do many things using the internet, now it's not only on the Earth, but also in the space, and many things can be done. So what kind of services can we generate? It's not just the people who are working in the area of the space to think about it, but anyone can think about what rather than how. So it is you that you'll be thinking about. And how part is where the space-related people will be working on. And I love rugby because I used to play rugby, and there are two coaches of the team Japan, the Toshiaki Hirose, who used to be the captain of Japan team, is a graduate of our school. And the players wear this GPS underneath their uniform. It used to be just a GPS, and it was like 400,000 yen per unit, but Galileo is used, and Michibiki GNSS is used, and with those satellites, the accuracy improved. And because of that, the receiver became less expensive. So we started a company, and this is the number of data, the GPS, which is started with the U.S. Military data, and with these many satellites, we are getting more precise positioning. And the Japanese and the Indian ones, the red portion represent the satellite signals which are available. So you can see that there are a lot of them in Oceania and Asia. So it's more accurate or precise. So it used to be only the video analysis on the left, but with the receiver during the game, you can actually monitor the speed and the performance. And during the practice, what you can do with during the practice can be realized through a game. And the Keio rugby team is 125 years old, which is oldest in Japan, and we take all of those data, and this led to the 30% less injuries. And now it's good to manage the condition of the captain of the Japan team, but we also would like to use that for the livestock. And of course, I can talk with the person, but not with the cows. So Hokkaido University and us, we started this project of the animal welfare. So those people those cows, who were kept in the barn, but now they can be raised in the pasture. And sometimes we don't notice when the livestock are not feeding well. So by using GPS, and we look at how they are eating the grass, and we can see their health pattern, and we can look at the cattle and also the field and others, the healthcare situation, and we can actually understand whether the cattle are healthy or not. And about the feed, we used to import a lot of feed, but instead we can reduce the cost now by eating grass, and we can reduce the mortality of the cattle. And last week, I was invited to a economic conference between New Zealand and Japan, and New Zealand is very much interested in this technology. to utilize for the livestock and pasture monitoring. And the QPS and other, there are about 100 university ventures. And for example, working with abroad and the legal practices are very difficult for those startups. So by combining all of them, we established the company to provide all of those services as a virtual company. This is the method called business cooperative. 13 companies, for example, iQPS it launches a lot of small satellites, edge space, and also the Location Mind analyzes the location data. So space-related companies, 13 of them are bundled together so that they can get a job from the large enterprises. So this is a satellite innovation lab, and many of those used to be the students of our school. They started up this company. So now they can do the business on the equal footing as the enterprises. So we can create the large organization by combining all of those small companies. But what I want to say here is that space business is not a special business. Is this something that you can get involved? So you can actually work with beyond Japan. So other countries can also come into Japanese market. So this is competition and also co-creation. Both of them can be combined in this industry. So with that, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
小滝先生、どうもありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. Now then. So Mr. Eric Morel de Westgaver, who is the Director of External Affairs or External Relations at ESA. That is the person in charge of cooperation with overseas space agencies. And yesterday with JAXA and ESA, the European Space Agency, and JAXA signed or issued a joint statement on cooperation, and I was more focused on greenhouse gases. Those words, or the words robotics, were used in the joint statement, and communication or navigation. Those words stuck out in that joint statement. So, Monsieur Morel, please.
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here in front of you. So I'm in ESA, the director in charge of strategy and legal matters. And in this respect, my main task is to prepare the next large ministerial meeting we will have end of next year. You know, we have meetings every 3 years in ESA to collect money. Our Director General has explained that a minute ago, to collect money from the 22 member states. And that is my main focus. But that's not why I'm here, because I'm also the Director of External Relations, and that's why I'm here, obviously, in Japan. I was here 1 year ago, and we started a discussion with JAXA, and yesterday I was very happy to see the signature by the President of JAXA and our Director General of this agreement that was signed yesterday. So I think this is a major step. This was presented at the start of the afternoon here, and for me this is a major step. But that was not all my career in ESA. In fact, I spent most of my career active in industrial policy and procurement. I've been leading the procurement of ESA for 17 years. That means that I know a little about the relation between ESA and industry, and the relation between an institution and the private sector in all its components, from large system integrator to SMEs to startup to universities. That was my business for quite some years. Thank you.
Monsieur Morel、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Monsieur Morel.
So next is Mr. Hirata of Sky Perfect JSAT. So they manage the 17 different satellites, and more recently, the space debris removal and the investment in the startups and also together with the NTT, establishing data center in the space. All of those things are something that the Sky Perfect JSAT is doing right now. So Hirata-san, go ahead. Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Hirata of Sky Perfect JSAT. In 1997, I joined this company. And first 20 years, I was a satellite engineer. And then I started to get involved in the new business development. As it was introduced, the space debris issue, that was the startup of the Sky Perfect, and that was the first example. And in January this year, we established a company. And also, we provided to the Qatari government with the marine oil leak detection solution, for which we received the award for the space development. Now, talking about the Sky Perfect JSAT, we provide SCAPA broadcasting, and as Kohtake-san mentioned, we are the largest satellite operator in Asia, and also I think when you take the airplane, maybe you use Wi-Fi. So we provide Wi-Fi services, and we provide the satellite connection. And we have been generating profit in the past 35 years or so in those businesses. Now, Sky Perfect is also an entertainment company. And this is from the Earth observation satellite. We detect the color of the ocean. This is a satellite crayon project. So there are names to those colors, and instead of names, rather, there are numbers. So if you enter those numbers into the Google map, you'll be able to check on the color of the ocean. On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, it's a pink, and it's actually the Sea of Ukraine, which is in pink color. This is was received the Red Dot Design Award, and one of the 3 design awards, and the second award in the design area. Now, what we are doing now is the space intelligence business. And mainly from the observation satellite, we get data, and Sky Perfect JSAT does the analysis, so that can be utilized to make decisions. And the data can be to convert it into the intelligence and provide it to our customers. One of the examples is shown here. This is a satellite disaster information service, and SAR satellite and small scale optical satellites will be used to collect information and used for the risk management at the time of the disaster. The information can be utilized for disaster recovery. And so what can we see from satellites? And one example is shown here. This was in 2016, right in front of the Hakata station. There was a subsiding of about 30 meters the road, and this was quite a shocking incident. So maybe some of you remember this. The subway construction started in 2012 in this area. So because of that, the sinkhole area and showing the away from sinkhole, and plotted from 2014 and 16. This is the analysis using the satellites. So sinkhole did not occur all of a sudden. It started to occur gradually from 2 years ago, or since 2014. And this became clear through our analysis. And by using this principle with Zenlin and Nippon Koei, we are providing Liana as a service, a commercial service. And also to the Qatari government, we provided the oil spill detection service using SAR satellite. So there are different ways of using this data. So this is the start of the service, and the minister in charge of the environment is shown here, and I met with the minister and others. This is my summary. The Sky Perfect JSAT has a purpose, turning the unknown into value, and our mission is space for your smile. We want to provide smile to everyone, and the space is not just space per se, but also the space around you is the space that we are talking about. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hirata-san. Next, Onishi-san, please. From QPS Institute, he is the president, and from his university days, he was developing satellites and entered QSP, and they were listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, and they're the second space startup to be listed, and they have already launched 8 satellites. So if you could introduce yourself and talk about your future activities. Thank you. I'm from QPS. My name is Onishi. Since you introduced me already, I'll skip the slide. Well, we develop a small SAR, synthetic aperture radar satellites, and this comes with a very large parabolic antenna for high resolution and low cost small SAR satellites. Now, one of the features of SARs, well, let me, of course, you can observe anything regardless of whether and day or night. So that's the attribute of a satellite. And by launching 36 such satellites in 15 to 20 minutes, we'll be able to observe any point on Earth. And within 10 minutes, we will be able to deliver by using inter-satellite communication. So we want to provide a near real-time Earth observation in this manner. Now, as was introduced earlier, we have already launched 8 satellites altogether. Sorry, could you wait? And so we still have a lot to launch before attaining 36. And so we want to increase the number of successful launches so that we can achieve a near real-time observation going forward. Now, for images, I'm sure you've seen these SAR images elsewhere, but the SAR images show the white and black output of the strength of the radio waves on Earth. So you can only see things that reflect the radio waves, and things that don't show up. So you can see very small things. So if you have a satellite overhead of something you want to see, and then you'll be able to see it, and that would increase that should increase the time resolution, and that's why you need many satellites. So I think that is the role that the SAR satellites can play in Earth observation. And of course, one of its attributes that we can deliver instantly and also take such images instantly. So this can lead to disaster prevention. And this is the images during the Noto earthquake. But of course, when you think about resolution, the area that you can take the image of compared to other satellites is quite limited. And therefore, in my view, we need to combine these wide area images of satellites and combine that with the high resolution images of SAR images, and that would lead to very speedy countermeasures against disasters. So we would like to increase the number of satellites to enable immediate video image taking. And of course, going forward, there will be many social challenges, but using near real-time observation, we wanted to use our imagery to resolve the various challenges on Earth. Now, we develop our own satellites. We start from the left, and then we have the rocket companies launch them into space, and then the data that is collected, we sell the data, and also Perfect JSAT, and we will work together to lead to a solution development and also distribution. So we'd like to work together to provide value to the end users who are on the right-hand side of the screen. One other point, one of our features is that we are coordinating with companies in Kyushu in order to operate this small satellite business. And I think that these micro SAR satellite area is an area where we have competitiveness against the world, and the fact that we have such a business foundation because we have so many companies in Kyushu who work with us. So from Kyushu, we would like to become a company that can have an impact on the world from Kyushu. Thank you.
大西さん、どうもありがとうございます。今、ビジネスモデルという話。
Thank you very much. You mentioned business model. So we like to invite the panelists to talk about the business model and whether you can make a business out of space is a question that I'd like to ask. And what kind of technologies are you focused upon? About the examples, specific examples, anything that you are very much focused upon. So those are the questions that I'd like you to comment upon. And to Eric about the European technologies and also the strength that you have in Europe. And if you can mention some of the challenges that you're faced with, I would appreciate it. So starting once again with Mr. Kohtake. Well, earlier, I already talked about some of the things, and in the various areas, there are possible, and it's possible to create businesses. So digital transformation, there are different ways of doing job, and we are seeing the changes in the area of space. We call it SX, or space transportation. So about the space data with the space technologies to create a transformation. There are many things. I talked about the livestock and the primary industry, for example, agriculture, forestry, and the fisheries. Those are easy to understand. There's a scalability, and there it covers a vast area that we cannot get to easily. So it's easier to see from the space or from the sky to understand the differences and the developments, temporal developments, to find out the things that we never recognized, or also to notice the risks. And those are the possibilities. And one interesting is that every week in Africa, Middle East, and if almost every week we get the visitor. For example, last week there were the government people from Rwanda, and they are all interested in doing something similar, but they don't have the technologies. So when we establish a certain services that can be applied to the different regions or different countries. So until now, I think that you need to do a lot of preparation, but now we have an infrastructure in the space. So when you can do it sometime at the place A, you can do it at the place B. That can be done easily. So that's very interesting. So in addition to the technology, we have to do make the rules. So engineers, scientists, and also the business people, and also those people who are good at rule making can be working on those possibilities. Thank you very much.
So you were asking me about the vision and then the strengths and the challenges. So when you start with the vision, an agency like ESA has 4 main objectives. Of course, is to answer to the ambitions of our 22 governments in terms of science, in terms of exploration. This is obvious. It is also a second aim that is, and some of the image we just have seen are showing it, how to reply to the needs of the European in terms of service they can get from space, being it navigation with Galileo, would it be data to monitor the evolution of the climate, like Copernicus, and tomorrow, secure connectivity using IRIS². So that is the second goal. The third goal is as old as the ESA Convention, 50 years ago. In the ESA Convention, we have four main objectives. One of the objectives is to support the competitiveness of industry. When you think that this was drafted 50 years ago, this was drafted with people having really a vision at that time. And this is a key role of ESA in supporting the European space industry in the extremely fast evolving space market, as you have illustrated in the presentation we have heard. The last objective is the matter of security, and we are living in a dangerous world. The ESA is an organization for peaceful purposes, but as you know, most of the space technologies are dual-use technologies, so therefore we are supporting the effort. That is for the vision and the main, let's say, function and roles of ESA. So now when you think in matters of strengths, let's start with the strengths. I think the first one in the ESA program, I would call it excellence. We are favoring excellence. I would take a few examples. When you think about meteorological satellites, we are building for EUMETSAT one of the best meteorological fleet of satellites existing in the world, and that is really a long-term program. This is ongoing since very, very long, and we are ensuring the renewal of the generation of the meteorological satellite. When you think about navigation, we started a long time after the US with the GPS signal, but today Galileo is offering the more precise navigation system existing in the world. We are very proud of that. We started late, but now we have a system. We are starting the second generation there also. This is excellence, and we will continue on that. When you think in Copernicus, we have built, I think, a unique fleet of satellites that are covering a very large number of parameters in order to improve our understanding of our planet and of the climate. Those data are used worldwide, and they are for free access. This is a real contribution to the world. Now let's think in terms of strategic autonomy. This, exactly like in Japan, we need to have an independent access to space. And we are very happy in July to have the Ariane 6 bringing back Europe with an autonomous access to space. So the question of autonomy of course in launches, but also autonomy in the key strategic technologies, and this is a key point. Finally, sustainability. This was underlined by the president of JAXA, and I can tell you we have really sharing this concern, sustainability, and that I think is a major role of a space agency. Now, you were asking also the challenges, and the challenges, of course, the first one is global competition. You are all following the investments made in the US, the investment made in China, and for Europe, this is a challenge. How to stay in the race? You have to know that the investment in space in Europe is 6 times smaller than the one of the US. This is giving you an idea of the challenge, and that is a very obvious challenge. Then the second difficulty is always in Europe. We are a continent. In ESA, we have 22 member states. The European Union has 27 member states. How to have them all looking in the same direction? And this is not easy. You have a major new actor that to space in Europe some 20 years ago, which is the European Union. So how to ensure that with the national programs, with the programs of the European Union, the program of ESA, how to ensure that we have the best coordination and ensure that all the euros of the European taxpayers are used with the best possible results for the entire community. And that is, of course, a political challenge. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Europe has meteorological satellites and also navigation and GPS, and that's their strength. And yes, that struck a bell. Thank you. Now, Hirata-san. Yes, thank you. Well, our business model is, first of all, the one feature of satellite communications or broadcasting is that it serves a public service and it's flexible, as Kohtake-san said. It's very flexible. Also, it doesn't go through a terrestrial infrastructure, so it's very strong against disasters. So to leverage these attributes in B2B, a service would be satellite communication services, or for B2C, you can use direct satellite communication through DTS, and also using broadband Wi-Fi are some of our businesses. And one technology that we are actually focusing on is the data that you can get from observation satellites. We believe is very valuable. So when you observe the Earth from space, of course, what you're observing is is Earth. So up to now, there was only once a day timing for observation. However, if you use the floating type of oil tanker, and you could probably estimate the amount of oil storage in that storing tank was one application. But if you have 36 satellites and on average take images every 10 minutes, then the amount of human economic activity that you can measure will widen greatly. For example, a supermarket parking lot, if you can know the amount of cars in the parking lot in 1 hour, then that times the number of customers in the store, you can tell if that superstore or supermarket is growing in revenue or declining. So this can even create a financial business, I think, for you. So there's a lot of opportunities. Thank you very much. I think the stock market is now building up momentum. And so now is an age when companies have to generate a profit. So that's one possible way of using the data. Now, Onishi-san, please. Yes, I'm sorry, I may be repeating myself, but I believe that we want to very rapidly deliver to customers very high resolution SAR satellite images. And that's most critical because as users, you want to see the location, you want to see as quickly as possible. That's the biggest needs. So we would like to, our technology would be to develop satellites and create systems to enable that. So we want to focus on this. And if we can increase the number of satellite launches, then the frequency of observation will increase, which means, as Hirata-san said, that would increase the number of users who want to use that data. Now, not only image data, but also many customers want solutions. And that is not our strength. Therefore, we will tie up with Sky Perfect or Nihon Koei, which is our shareholder, who have strength in these areas in order to provide value to customers and to expand our target markets. So that's our business model. Thank you very much. Now, so what is the frequency of the observation? Well, we don't have enough satellites now, so it's maybe in hours. But we would like to reduce that to minutes, but we still don't have enough satellites for minute-level observations. Now, second question, well, about globalization. Should we run this business just in Japan, or should we expand this globally to go after scale? And whether cooperation with global partners is important, or should we start small and limit the business initially, at least, in the domestic market? So perhaps we can start from the reverse order and start with Onishi-san. Yes. Well, satellites, basically speaking, it can't stay in one place. So you'll be viewing the entire Earth. So for Earth observation, I think that the world will have to be our target market. And we have only few satellites but Japanese government agencies have a very strong demand for our data. So we would like to deliver to these needs. And once we can increase the number of satellites, that would increase our capacity, delivery capacity. Then perhaps we can deliver data to overseas customers as well. But when it comes to Earth observation, I think each person provides, or each operator provides images in their own local area. So going forward, although it's only Japan now, we would like to provide our data globally going forward. Hirata-san? Yes. Well, Sky Perfect JSAT has in Washington, D.C., a subsidiary company. And in Jakarta and Singapore and Hong Kong, we have branches. So we already have a global business, and we started with such a global approach. But the Japanese market is quite large. Therefore, I think some businesses may be satisfied just by the Japanese market, but I think that we have to go global. But in a new business, I think to go global immediately would be risky. So I think that you should solidify your business in the domestic market and then start to make encroaches abroad. So you should solidify the Japanese business before you go global. Okay. Now, Eric, why Japan and ESA at this timing decided to cooperate? Why does ESA want to work with Japan now? But and are you thinking only about cooperating with Japan, or do you have the entire Asian market in mind?
If you allow me first to say some words on the first question, because in Europe, obviously, we have an industry that is looking at the global market. That is absolutely obvious, and we are supporting this industry in the global market. But you have also, and I think you said it very rightly, you need to know your customers, you need to know your client. And of course, who better than the Japanese knows the Japanese market? Certainly not from Europe, we know what are your needs. So that is a domain where, of course, cooperation is so important. We were on Tuesday at the Nihonbashi Space Week presenting 4 European startups, presenting them to the Japanese counterpart at the occasion of this conference. What was the objective? Is to create links. We know better the European market, you know better the Japanese market, and how together also try to affront foreign markets like the one of the US. So that was the idea of this competition we have conducted in Europe, saying what are the best 4 that we can bring to Japan. We have done that, and I think that is important. The third aspect is, of course, when it's linked to security. There, of course, security, you stay within national or regional boundaries, because this is another matter. But now, your question about the relation is Japan. There was a great moment for me, I think an hour ago, when you have seen on this screen a view graph that was presenting the 4 domains of the cooperation foreseen between Japan and ESA, between JAXA and ESA. First, you were asking why now? Cooperation with Japan is very old. The problem is that the key elements of our cooperation today are flying. One is flying to Mercury, the other one is flying to reach a comet, and the third one is turning around the Earth to analyze the clouds. So now it is time to look for the next big cooperation. And why now? Because as I said already, we have a very important ministerial meeting in November 25 in Germany. During this meeting, we will collect the contribution of the member states, and therefore we must put on time on the table the cooperation between Japan and ESA, so that we can ensure the financing on the ESA side. So that is why we do it now. But in the long term, and when you think about what we have achieved, together Japan and ESA in the domain of space science. Bepi Colombo will be really a breakthrough. What we are doing for planet protection, you see together those programs at the end are for the benefit of the humanity, because we are really making progress for science, and if we are protecting the planet, it's the planet of all. And this collaboration there is for me really an example of what the world should be.
森さん、ありがとうございます。まず、
Thank you very much. So to understand the needs you mentioned is very important, and I understand that fully. Thank you. So Kohtake-san, please. Yes, thank you. So whether to go local or global, of course, there is no question we have to go global, because in Japan, for example, telecommunication infrastructure is available. So something that is not very useful. But if you go to other countries, that technology could be very beneficial because they don't have an infrastructure. So we have various assets, and outside of Japan, they can be very useful. And also, we can create the new services outside of Japan, and we can import back to Japan. So there are more opportunities, and there are people who would pay. There are various stakeholders. So in that sense, there are a lot of business opportunities. And another thing is that, for example, at the UN, there is a 100-country committee about the safety copiers. And those people, the countries who have no space agency can also have a vote there. So there are many countries who are interested. So in 5-10 years, there will be a lot more space players. So if that is the case, we should be work together with Europe. We have to we have to show the leadership. So as you go forward, there will be more and more people who want to learn from us. So we have to make sure that we have people, we have money, and we have information, and that would benefit everyone. So this is the win-win for everyone. So we have to really look at the world and then look at Japan. That would benefit Japan, and also that would benefit world. And I myself enjoy meeting with people from different countries. So thank you. I think that in this panel session, we can actually see that. So thank you very much. Let me move on to the next question. The latest technology, constellation, is one of the words that is mentioned these days. So it's the constellation of satellites. And for example, it's not just the one server, but you can combine the multiple servers and create one big virtual server. And it's not just one data center, but we can combine multiple. So same goes for the satellites. So it's not just one satellite, but a group of satellites can do something as a constellation. So this technology of constellation, what kind of new things that would be realized? Is this something that we should be really focused upon? I'd like to ask that to every panelist. So it's a very specific question. So about constellation, it is not something very difficult. It's autonomous, distributed, and collaborative. So something that needs to be done by one satellite. Multiple satellites can play different roles. That's one of the points. And so in the past, for example, it's just like internet. There are computers connected to the network. So when you have a large-scale mathematical problem, we can all work together. So when one machine goes down, other can compensate. So limited the satellites, having the multiple satellites, they can work together. So something that cannot be done with one satellite can be realized. And by having the different roles, 1 + 1 can be 3 or a larger number, not just 2. So through the coordination and collaboration, we have to make sure that they would fly at the correct orbit so that they can play the necessary roles. And that could be challenging. So QPS, for example, launching multiple satellites, that would improve the value that you can offer. So that's very important point and very difficult area. Eric, do you have anything to comment on that?
Well, I think there are no questions on constellation. They are there. And they are there since quite some time. We have started with a constellation for navigation, first the GPS constellation, now you have others. And we see everywhere the Starlink constellation being built and becoming a world leader in this domain. So the question in Europe was, how shall we react to this change of the world where constellation offering broadband for data, voice, security, what to do. So there was recently an initiative by the European Commission to launch the IRIS² program, which is extremely interesting because this is a public-private partnership program where the private partner that will develop the fleet of satellites will serve the commercial market and at the same time will serve the needs in Europe in terms of secure communication. This, of course, is a very difficult venture to put in place because you have to combine commercial and strategic needs. It's always very, very difficult, but this will be done by way of a concession, and this is ongoing. And I think by the end of the year, the contractual setup will be in place. But when you think about constellation, you have to realize last year we have launched 2,939 satellites around the world, which is an incredible number. Most of that, close to 90% of that, were commercial satellites, and an enormous majority, more than 70% of those satellites were below 500 kilos. So you see clearly the evolution. Far more actors, far more satellites, and one, of course, of the fundamental question you have when you look at that is what about the long-term sustainability of the orbits? Because we will have all those satellites, and that must be, of course, a common effort of all of us to ensure that we'll be able all together to continue to use this fantastic asset that are represented by satellites. So constellation, this is a reality of today, it's a reality of tomorrow, and as I told you, in Europe, we are working very hard on it.
ありがとうございます。確か2200機というような説明だったと思う。
I think you said about 2,200 satellites, which is quite a large number, but that's a reality. Yes, regarding the constellation, well, Sky Perfect JSAT has 17 satellites, which basically are large geostationary orbit satellites. And in my introductory slide, I held a satellite model in my hand, but that was just a model. And it's the actual size is about half a tennis court, and it's only about 5 tons. So it's a very large and heavy satellite. So whether it's not whether a constellation is best or a single satellite is best. I think you should pick and choose depending on the application. But when it comes to Earth observation or navigation, it's better to use a constellation of satellites because then you have resilience. Because if one of these satellites goes down, the others can make up. So in that sense, the constellation, I think, provides a lot of hope. And also from the viewpoint of distributed and autonomous, I think that without using expensive components, you can create a distributed system with a cheap satellite. So you can create a constellation with relatively inexpensive satellites. Now, Sky Perfect JSAT excels in large geostationary satellites, but KPS, QPS, and others which are strong in such constellations, we would like to collaborate with these players as well. Thank you. Onishi-san? Well, yes, my company aims to create a constellation. So we're in the midst of this movement. But when you look at SAR satellites, SAR satellites can be observed anytime. So the larger the number of satellites, that would increase the frequency of observation of one location. So with the constellation, I think that would increase the time available for observation during the daytime, maybe in the afternoon, and also during the nighttime and early mornings. So I think that the SAR constellation would be one means to increase the time of observation. So we want to increase the time periods where people want to see such data. And technologically speaking, as Professor Kohtake said, I think that it requires different technologies, because in the past, if you had one satellite in operation, then it will be one base station. But if you need several satellites and several base stations, and also you need linkages between these satellites. So I think that requires different technologies. And currently, our geostationary satellite, and we have used RF for satellite-to-satellite communication, but that's quite different from linking with the base station. And by combining these together, I think that we'll be able to create a higher-performing constellation. So we want to achieve these technologies one by one to build a track record. Thank you. We're running out of time, but in the end, we would like to ask each of you to talk about the role of the startup companies. Startups are full of vitality, and they have energy that may be lacking in existing companies. But on the other hand, compared to large companies, they don't have the experience and the know-how. So I think there's a role each one can play. So how can they get along with one another? And Monsieur Morel and Kohtake-san, we would like to hear from you about the public sector, what the public sector can do to develop such businesses, and what should be done, what you want to do between the large companies and startups. So please, from Onishi-san. Well, startups, I think should challenge new things, and we are also doing that. And Sky Perfect and other big companies should give them support and provide technologies, know-how that these startups don't have, so that they can create a system where these companies can compete in the space business. So in that sense, I think we can leverage each other's strength. Well, Sky Perfect JSAT is engaged in very active venture investment. And also to QPS, we have invested, and we have also provided investment to various startups. And for 35 years, we have been generating a profit in the space business. We are an established company, but still, we want to expand the space market and industrialize it more, so we need investment. So we would like to work together to expand the market together with these startups. Mr. Morel?
Well, I would take one example in Europe. I've spoken about access to space. We have launched Ariane 6 in July, and we will launch Vega C. The return to flight will come in the coming weeks. But we are preparing the future. And for the future, we are looking at a completely different model. So the idea is to move from rockets developed inside and by an ESA program to move to launchers, where we will go to startup, to new actors, also to the historical actor, but also to new actors, and to move from a development contract to a service contract. And that has created quite an emulation in Europe, I can tell you today. You see a number of actors, really startup, that are working very hard in preparation of this European Launcher Challenge that will prepare the future. So that is a way to give a chance to the startup companies. We are also in a number of visa programs. We are really pushing for the participation of startup, but also of SMEs or small firms, by putting as a requirement for the prime contractor that will come with the offer for the satellite to look for new actors, new opportunities. A third domain where we are active is to we have created a group of investors, the main investors of Europe are regrouped at the exchange, and ESA can provide technical assistance to them, to the knowledge we have about the way satellites and launchers are working. This is another way that I can take as an example. Thank you.
小竹先生、お願いします。
Thank you. So about university startup and the space business, actually the place like university to have a discussion on the new topic and also do the research, that is the value of the universities. And when we try to commercialize it, unlike the research, there are new elements that are necessary. So ideas coming from the universities can be utilized for the startups. And QPS, I think, is one of the examples to do so. So there are overlaps happening. And at the same time, the space agencies, the government, when you consider those, then they have to make rules and something that cannot be done by the startups and university to do the longer term challenge. So that would be the role. So it goes around, and that would come back to the universities for the idea for the research. So changes is that the JAXA itself used to do that. The ESA also used to do that. But now the space industry is becoming more mature. So the startups, how to foster and develop them, and technology management role is something that is required on the part of the agency. So 1 trillion yen, the budget, it's not something the JAXA can receive, but rather the universities and the JAXA is supporting the universities so that we can do the research. So JAXA people are kind of puzzled. They have to also support those people who are launching and doing the research and so forth. So there are some changes happening and the widening of the roles of the space agencies. And we also see the global movement. So I think it's a very exciting time that we live in. So there are different roles that we can play. Thank you very much. Our time is up. So with that, I'd like to end this session. So from Europe, we learned the perspective from Europe, and also we had a very insightful discussion. So now that it's not the question of how the space can be utilized, but we are now in the next level or more advanced level. So with that, I'd like to end this session. Thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you.